Hey everyone, happy Friday morning. Hope you all had a great week. Welcome to the TDR Traded Black podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Shad Dales. Hope you're gearing up for a great long weekend, both in the US and in Canada. But before we head into this long weekend, let's look at some things and how the week went. Yes, we saw a pullback. Yes, we have Dan the Chart Man on. And yes, he did outline last week that if we don't get news, we will see a pullback. So what's the latest? We'll break down some charts and what we can anticipate going into next week as well. Ukraine. Medical cannabis, can you believe it? Yep, we'll dive into that as well. A few psychedelic plays, including Cybin, who had their latest earnings. So some big takeaways on that. What are some of the 2 or 3 key takeaways from those latest earnings? How we look and view this company moving forward. And finally, yes, we did have a big interview yesterday with David Klein. We'll recap that and break down some of the feedback that we basically have learned on some of the feedback that he provided. Anthony and I will talk about that, and we'll go from there. But in the meantime, let's welcome in the crew. TDR co-host Anthony Varell. Happy Friday, gearing up for the big long weekend. And it's I think it's a much needed long weekend coming up. But we saw a pullback for the week. We'll get into some of those details, but an interesting conversation that we had obviously yesterday with David Klein. We posted that last night, getting some feedback and some comments. I think a lot of people enjoyed obviously the questions that we asked. But now it's about just executing, saying the right things. Now it's just about going out and do the work, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great conversation. I thought it was a good follow-up to the first video. I mean, we asked David some pressing, honest questions. I mean, he had some honest answers. I mean, I think there's also some room to be had as to what Canopy is going to do fundamentally on a go-forward basis and how they're going to alleviate a lot of these concerns. And I mean, I see a couple of questions. Canopy, is it a buy? Blah, blah, blah. We're not in the business of that. I mean, we're never going to tell you to buy a stock. We're never going to tell you to sell a stock. Like, we will give you all the information that you need to develop that thesis on your own. And then it's ultimately for you to deem that worthy of whether or not you want to purchase it or not in your portfolio. So as much as I'd like to sit here and pontificate on should you buy X, should you buy Y, take the tools that we're giving you, distill down the information, watch David, and then develop your own opinions. And I mean, that's the best way that you can really tackle the sector. But no, it was nice. It was good. I think we got a lot of the questions answered. Now it's on to the CUSA part of the story, diving deep into those assets. I think we're also going to get the founder of Storz and Bickel on here in a couple of weeks to get a deep dive into that product segment with Canopy. And I mean, it's going to be a turnaround story. I mean, David is turning around the business that he inherited. That's pretty much all we can say at this point in time.
Well said. I think that's a great term. He pretty much, it's the company that he inherited, right? And I think a lot of people, they are frustrated right now, but latest earnings is a step in the right direction. And we broke that down. If you haven't got a chance to look at it yet, check out the interview. We talk about the structure of CUSA, how that's going to be a subsidiary of Canopy Growth. And another big question, will they be able to maintain their NASDAQ listing? So if you haven't got a chance, make sure after this live stream, go onto our YouTube channel, some good information. Steven, I know you're right. The Cannabis, Terracin, we can break that down a little bit later. Maybe some charts with Dan to come on. But in the meantime, let's bring in our other TDR co-host. It's Friday, and Guap is here. Are the shades out? Oh, yep, they are. Yep. Good to see you, sir. Happy Friday. How are things?
Still feeling the love. I'm just honored to be here. The fact that you guys have had me back show after show to bring my own brand of edutainment, it's truly an honor. And to represent all the retail shareholders out there, I'm loving it.
Love his personality. Just so grateful, huh? That's the kind of people you want to be around. And
trying.
Should we call this Friday DEA Day? What do you think, Guap?
Look, I think we're all rooting for it. I mean, Anthony's gone on the record saying that what time?
4:30 p.m. Eastern time tonight.
If we get the news breaking, we will go live for a dance party / other party, and Anthony will have to get his Kamala costume ready because that's what he said, and I know him; he'll do it.
Yeah. Any chance you extend that timeline? If that's announced, let's say next Tuesday or Wednesday, you bringing that out, or it's done?
Bet. Might as well just say, hey, yeah. I mean, absolutely not.
Yeah, a bet is a bet. All right, let's jump into it. Okay, gents, into the wire. TDR, Traded Black Podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Great to have you along here on a Friday with Anthony Varell and Guap, our TDR co-hosts. Let's actually focus on psychedelics first. And one of the big companies in the space, Cybin, they announced their latest earnings actually earlier this week. I looked at a couple of the things, but Anthony, over to you. What were some of the key takeaways that you found when reading these latest earnings regarding Cybin?
Yeah, so I mean, I thought there was a lot of things to like here. I got a couple of comments from people on Twitter that they're going to need to raise cash. The burn's gone through the roof from 10 million to 30 million. I think there's some things to look at. Cybin, this quarter, you could argue that Doug has laid the foundation.
Yes,
they specifically said that they're going to initiate a phase 3 with 003, which is their psilocybin therapeutic. They're going to initiate a phase 2A with their deuterated DMT therapeutic, and those are big milestones for the company. They also solidified 6 patents this quarter around several molecules, and from a cash position, they have 39 million left in liquid cash. However, they have 121 million in cash and cash equivalents. That includes their at-the-market program. That includes their full warrants that they've issued. So if you want to do the math, and the accelerated burn maintains that they captured this quarter, they've got about a year left of runway with the current financial instruments they have in place. For me, that's enough. I mean, I think Cybin is one of the leading stories in the psychedelic space. I think it's very compelling what they're doing with 003 and 004, getting these progressed and actually showing continued execution on Doug's side. I thought it was a good quarter. These companies aren't going to make money anytime soon. I mean, as far as these earnings reports go, what I'm looking at, and I'm not a shareholder, but what I am looking at is the balance sheet, the burn, and how long it's going to take them to get to their next steps. And right now, initiating that phase 3, initiating that 2A, as well as sitting on a foundation of IP and data as it relates to their studies, with that 121 million in cash and cash equivalents in the war chest, I think the future bodes well for them, at least for the next year.
I think that's the biggest difference between the cannabis and psychedelic space, that if you can raise money, it's a good thing, because if you don't have the data or the IP, you're not raising money. And if you're not raising money with IP or data, you're done. And you could see that evidently clear within this industry. As many as, I don't know how many companies went public 2-3 years ago, but we all understand there's only going to be a handful left in this industry. But for those that do, and I think next stop for Cybin, obviously, is their phase 3 study towards CYB003. And we've all seen the sophisticated investors that got involved in their latest round back in November. And like you said, one of the key takeaways that we outlined in the dalesreport.com from Bill McDarland earlier this week was, like you said, Anthony, achieving primary efficacy endpoints for a number of their trials. So great IP, big year coming up, and they probably will have to raise more money, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you ever one day get FDA approval, I don't know what the ceiling is, but it's big. But that's biotech for you. Guap, do you follow the space that much, the psychedelic space?
Not the individual stocks so much, but I'm just a big believer in plant medicine long term. I mean, and healing the earth and healing everyone on it. You know, I know that sounds a little woo woo, but hey, it's Friday.
Hey, it's woo woo.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the future of psychiatry is going to get people off a lot of pharma's pills, de-prescribing things, if you will. And there's a lot of folks dealing with, you know, if you want to zoom out with cannabis, you have to really, really zoom out with psychedelics. This is not a new field. Plant medicine's been around for a long time. You can rewire your brain with the right set and setting and substances. And so I think what we're seeing in the psychedelic space is the acceptance and you know, some of the phase 3 trials that are going on with substances like MDMA and DMT. These are, you know, quick onset and a quick off ramp kind of things versus, you know, the LSDs of the world. So I'm excited to see it in action. I've watched a lot of documentaries on it. I've seen it help a lot of my friends that are veterans, people who are unpacking all sorts of things in their own life and their own trauma. So any tools that can let people, and that's what these are, tools. They're not solutions. And anything that can help the people of this earth heal, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Henry Lopez writes, I'm holding PCIL for at least 3 years. Maybe not a bad strategy. This is not investment advice, but yeah, that was big news last week after the market with the NDA or FDA, excuse me, giving approval for MAPS, otherwise known as Lykos Therapeutics now, their NDA submission. I keep hearing it's a shoe-in. I know that's pretty aggressive to say, but 6 to 8 months timeline, everything looks positive. If the FDA were to approve their MDMA protocol, don't sleep on this space, because the back end of 2024, things could wake up in a hurry. That would be a monumental moment, not necessarily for investors, but just society in general, because I was listening to Dan Carcillo, good friends of ours, and Cody Chandra. Many as 14 million Americans currently right now with PTSD. So there's a lot of revenue to be made, but a lot of people that could be helpful. But the big thing right now is you got to fix the clinics, therapists, that sort of thing. That's going to be the next big question mark.
Yeah, I mean, PTSD is one thing with MDMA, but just, you've got clinics with ketamine, you've got all sorts of options. But MDMA and couples therapy, I mean, that's PB&J right there.
Zenarios writes, Jushi Holdings was DTC ineligible all week long. They seem to have cleared it up. However, as they are tradable now with brokers who clear exclusively through the DTC, but I'd like to know more. Do you guys know much about that? If not, we can.
I haven't heard about that at all, and I would assume that they needed to put out a press release if that was the case.
So whether that's
they've been trading all
week,
they've been trading all week from what I've seen. I'm going to look into that because I don't know anything about it, and I mean that kind of threw me for a rope.
Fair enough. TDR, Trade of Black podcast. Happy Friday, going into the long weekend. Let's now move to everyone's favorite topic, cannabis. Love cannabis. Don Murphy was tweeting out yesterday just some updates regarding safer banking. In addition, there are current negotiations going on over a key section of the cannabis banking bill addressing protections for businesses that attract political scrutiny. Guap, you want to explain a little bit more on this?
Yeah, so if we could bring up that Politico tweet, that's really what kicked this off. And I know safer, safest triggers everybody. Sorry, we're having some glitches here. It's across the screen now. But a representative said to Natalie Fertig that Section 10 of the Safe Banking Act is just down to the last few words. The text's been going back and forth for months. He approved a new version of the text that the office sent over to the Senate just last week. So this is notable just because if you go back to late September, the same representative was saying this thing's dead on arrival. If it gets to the House, I'm not passing it, and a contingent of people will not be passing it. So it's worth covering. I know, like, fool me once, shame on me, or shame on you, and fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 10 times. I know safe it makes people dry heave, but at the same time, wouldn't it be funny if the DC was coordinating the entire effort on cannabis and passed Schedule 3 through and safer not too soon after an AG memo? That would seem like a coordinated DC thing to do, wouldn't it? So not to get too speculative, but it's promising signs, and it's also extremely promising to see Don Murphy, who's on the ground talking to these same senators and congressmen, basically corroborating that story, saying that he's hearing similar things. So
do you think Germany has any kind of influence on moving? Like, I know it does, like, two different countries, like you can't compare the two, but it doesn't have any impact on it whatsoever.
I think all of these dynamics, it's very fluid, and it's all about pressure, right? If the law, we were talking to Emily, great interview on Wednesday, Emily Paxia, talking about the lawsuit. Is the lawsuit going to all the way to the Supreme Court and passing? Maybe, but it's about putting pressure on another branch of government.
Yeah.
I feel like you have similar sorts of unseen pressures going on state to state. When all the states around you have legalized cannabis and all your tax dollars are literally driving across the border and buying cannabis at a neighboring state, you don't think that state takes notice? Of course they do. So with Germany, does it make us look bad? Is it putting pressure on the US to do something? I don't know if I buy
I don't
that.
know. I don't know
but
if I use the word term bad, but
It's
go ahead.
usually the
Ann.
other way around. It's usually the other way
Germany-
around. If the U.S. passes anything relating to like the FDA or drug policy or anything externally, usually Europe follows suit. It's not the other way around.
I know.
And Germany
the
leads the way.
American the American government's not going to look to Germany to
Right.
push cannabis legislation forward. If that was the case, I mean, if anything, we would have pushed it forward at a heavier pace when Canada legalized it, as they're our neighbor to the north. I mean, I don't think we're paying any attention. I would be willing to bet that the guys in Washington don't even know what's going on in Germany.
Probably.
For the most
Right.
part, as it relates to legalization.
That's probably
Well,
accurate.
If Germany,
Yeah.
When we're going to talk about this a little bit at some point, but when Germany legalizes and they start seeing some traction and some tax dollars, and that puts pressure on all the other countries in the EU, right?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I think it's better. I think it's a bigger point what the
Yeah.
Senate, what the congressman from Missouri was referring to yesterday in relation to Section 10, because Section 10 gets the NRA, the gun lobby, oil and gas, and everybody that was kind of looking at safe banking as per like, all right, well, this helps cannabis, but this kind of is pretty ambiguous towards our industries, and this could open us up to some risk from our industries. If that's alleviated, and now those parties are privy to pushing the bill forward to any extent, that gets support on the right, and then the other support coming from the left that they already have, this thing can actually get passed. To me, Don has said Section 10 was the most important. After I really went through it, Section 10 was the most important thing on the bill, and it was because the powers that be are influenced by the backers that implements.
Can you update
Also,
us?
whoever's saying that my shirt's triggering them, it's a joke. It says Employee of the Month, so it's not an actual FTX.
I was wondering what is going on.
It's not an actual FTX shirt. You just can't see it in the purview. What were you going to ask, Shad?
I was going to say maybe update us or talk more clearly or update us or more in depth about Section 10. What happened? The changes from Republican Senator, if I'm correct, was Luca Meyer.
There were no changes. It's just the language around that as it relates to the other industries needed to get streamlined, because it didn't address what was going on in those industries.
Okay.
I mean, the way all this horse trading works, right? I don't think it's any surprise or to anyone that they're starting to talk about safer banking when Schedule 3 is coming out. I mean, I think part of that's coordinated, but part of that is like, oh shit, we got to get our stuff together so they don't just steal the spotlight. It's all scoring political points. Every politician, when any bill comes out, is asking, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
And so safer is no different, right? Like if gun rights and it's score a little points with the NRA and all the supporters, what's in it for me is Section 10.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't noticed, like, politicians are parasites. Like, Elizabeth Warren probably does not give a shit about cannabis. She doesn't. I mean, I could guarantee you that Elizabeth Warren does not care about plant medicine, about helping people. She probably knows that something's coming down the pipe, and that she gets loud right now, goes on national TV, late night TV, is tweeting all the time. It's time to legalize cannabis. She's doing it because she's going to gain political will if something happens towards cannabis, and she wants to front run it and capture the political capital. She's not in it because she wants to get people out of jail, and she wants to help people. And that's just the way politicians work.
You do believe that? Obviously you do.
It's hard to tell.
I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell what they're really for. But they're all playing the game.
I mean, let's be real. The 99% of the politicians are for one thing and one thing only. It's themselves. It's their political contributions and themselves.
The key takeaway
here. Look at the way the country's run.
Anthony Burrell believes politicians are parasites.
Who's got two thumbs and a net worth that wants to get bigger? This guy. It's like, it's like
Mitch, I see you, and then Mitch, I see you pulling up an Elizabeth Warren picture. Oh, here we go. This is going to be great. Check out that short.
We made that.
Yeah, we did. All right, gents, this is the TDR Traded Black podcast, Into the Wire. Don't forget, like this video. We want to build this community. We want to take this viral. So make sure to like this video, leave comments below. Make sure to click on that notification bell to keep you updated, and as well, share this video with your network. And most importantly, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's now focus on topic number 3. This one actually caught me by surprise. Ukraine. They actually are President Zelensky signed off on a bill yesterday that will legalize medical use of cannabis. I've got to say, this surprised me a little bit. Did it surprise you at all, Anthony?
Not really. I've been following this for the past month. This bill and this legislation got unblocked in the Ukraine parliament last month, and then it hits Zelensky's desk. As of yesterday, he signed it officially. So now what happens is the clock starts ticking, and they have 6 months to develop the rules, regulations, and actually implement the framework for the medical marijuana industry in Ukraine. At the same time, right now, under the definition of medical purposes, the only thing that it's covered is war-induced PTSD and cancer. And then also they're estimating that there's about 6 million medical cannabis patients. So if you want to actually extrapolate that into the population, the penetration of that is somewhere around 15 to 17% of the current population of the country. There's about 36 million and change people right now in the Ukraine. So if you want to drop that into states context, if you look at the highest penetration of medical cannabis patients in the United States, you look to Florida and Pennsylvania. And Pennsylvania's penetration is about 4.5 to 5%. And Florida, I think, is about 3.25 to 4% of the population. So, I mean, you're talking big numbers, but there's a lot of opacity around this industry. They have no infrastructure. They basically just passed the bill with zero infrastructure. It's gonna be a function of spin up clinics, I have no idea. That hasn't been yet to be determined. If I had to guess, they're going to build clinics, they're going to issue people medical cards, and they're going to be importing cannabis from Europe, or Canada somewhere. They've got to get the cannabis from somewhere. I mean, I know that there's a lot of grows and there's a bunch of black market infrastructure in Albania and Macedonia where a lot of the cannabis is actually grown that finds its way into the black market in Europe. I know that because going to Cannabis and looking at the Spanish industry, that's where a lot of the black market cannabis comes from. I don't know how legitimized this or an industry they're going to have, but they are going to have medical cannabis here in the short term in about a 6-month window, and the penetration is going to be very high compared to the population. So, I mean, it's definitely something that will be interesting to see as another country but brings medical cannabis online countrywide. But I don't really see this as investable or really playing into the storyline that a lot of us look to, like thinking, oh, this is going to be a benefit to Curaleaf. I highly doubt that. However, it's a country nationwide, bringing cannabis online, getting plant medicine in the hands of people. So, I mean, net, I think it's a positive.
Time to get Boris back on, get some clarity. That'd be interesting. War-induced PTSD should cover the entire country. Brian, yes, I agree with you there. Go ahead.
The point I was going to make. You think everyone there has PTSD? I mean, I'm just amazed. This is a weird story for me personally, just because, you know, how long have we been waiting in the U.S., not to compare apples to apples, but, you know, for cannabis legislation to pass, and they're in the middle of a war with, you know, you wouldn't blame them if they didn't talk about cannabis or do anything on cannabis right now, right? But they are, and they're trying to hopefully do what's right for the people of Ukraine and get them some relief. So
what's that tell you about cannabis, though? What's that tell you about cannabis, though? You know, when you think about what this country's endured over the past whatever, and then you've got a bill that's signed off, it just, given the times, that this is not just an American thing. You're seeing countries all over the world. It's a top of mind awareness, and it's a conversation and bills that are being passed. So again, we go back to that, you know, progress that we talked about in our one segment on Wednesday's podcast. Let's not get caught up in this day-to-day stock moving stuff. When you look at the global landscape of this space, a lot of people believe this is an opportunity of a lifetime, and how this is going to change a lot of countries. I hope that's the case, because on paper, you're starting to see more and more progress, and it's great to hear stories like this happen.
Yeah.
This is the TDR Traded Black podcast. That wraps up Into the Wire. Quick reminder, if you haven't done so already, make sure to log on to thedalesreport.com. Subscribe to our daily newsletter called the Baked In Newsletter. We launched our latest equity research report. Who's the company that we're initiating coverage and why? We're also going to be putting a lot of these reports out to some big distributions that we're working on right now in the U.S. So they're really compelling information. Again, this is to benefit you, the everyday investor, versus the brokerage firms. So please, if you can, log on to thedalesreport.com. click the top right-hand corner of the Baked In newsletter. There's the link right there. Thanks, Mitch. And become a Baked In newsletter subscriber today and get access to those reports. All right. Now time for one of the best parts.
One more before we get to Dan, the chart man. We have to talk about our poll that we had this week. Let's go ahead. Let's take a look at it.
Yeah, take a look.
I like this one. Rescheduling. Look at that. A lot of the sentiment was end of April or later. 38.5%.
End of April or later means that a lot of people are getting realistic.
Yeah.
Well, I think
John Schroyer made up some good points. He talked about State of the Union address, Black History Month. What else did he bring up? I think it was like end of March. He did outline that as well, but a lot of people do believe end of April or later, 38.5%.
I think it would be, yeah, I think this is sort of a misinterpretation of the poll data a little bit. I'm going to jump in here because we could get the news that the DA accepted the HHS decision while we're live streaming, and then Anthony's going to have to put on a costume. This is asking when cannabis will be rescheduled, meaning after the comment period. I could interpret this question, this poll question, as when will it be rescheduled? It'll be after comment periods, legal challenges signed into law by Biden after April. So I would have voted end of April or later here as well. If the question was when will the DEA accept HHS decision, I think you're going to get some different poll results. And nobody knows. We're all guessing, and so are the people in this poll. So,
Mitch, you should do that poll again next week. And the one thing you should add is 420 as an option. I'd be curious to see what percentage would be based off of that. And I know that's a big marketing ploy, but too good to be true. Because as you've said before, Anthony, I don't think a lot of U.S. politicians know what's going on in Germany. And there's probably a lot of U.S. politicians that don't even know what 420 is. But I'm sure there are a lot that do.
I think this poll shows that our audience is savvy and very up to speed on what the process actually is. And so end of April is the correct answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
If you think the government's going to do a marketing ploy and announce this on 420, I got a lot more to say.
I think you're probably right.
I'm going to announce something on 420, and it's not that.
Yeah.
All right, gents, it's now time for one of the best parts of the week. Segment number 2. Cue up the intro. It's time for looking at charts with Dan, the chart man. Mitch, cue up the intro, brother. Here he is. Good day, sir. Happy Friday. How are you? I think you went on a little bit of a road trip, got a little bit of sun, but good to see you. How are things?
Things are good. Yeah, back home for a brief bit, but getting right back into the charts.
Yeah. Well, last time you were on and you called it, Dan, you said if we don't get any kind of rescheduling news, we're probably going to see a lot of these stocks pull back, bleed out a little bit. That's exactly what's happened. So let's dive into it first. First chart we're going to bring up is MSOs, and let's walk us through what you saw this week and probably some of the sentiment going into next week.
So a lot of it, a lot of obviously my analysis is price action and things like that, but psychology does come into play. And so you have the setup being, all right, Sneed, everybody's saying, all right, this week, it's looking like it's coming this week. And so they buy on this green day. We double top to the penny. Clearly bears are defending 1064. And you then have a setup where the market is pricing in a significantly increased probability that we're going to get news within a couple of days. And as soon as you don't get that news within a couple of days, the market mispriced in information. And so it has to adjust for that. And so we get this pullback on the weekly time frame. And, these pullbacks, when you run up really hard and you're thinly traded, you can anticipate the pullbacks to be 10, 20, 30% and have that not be surprising. And so, from a bigger picture perspective, I would rather be like this right now and then have DEA headline hit than I would being at the high. Because right now you got a new wave of shorts in, you got a new wave of bulls taking profit. And so if the news were to hit right now, you got cash on the sideline that needs to jump back in. You've got shorts that need to cover quickly before we break 1064. So I would, rather this kind of technical setup than, euphoria heading into that announcement. But as far as where we stand right now, we've got the potential of a daily bear flag. And I want to just compare it to AYRWF real quick, because we looked at this I think 2 weeks ago when I was on, and we talked about this being a daily bear flag. And so this is what MSOS bulls do not want to see. This would be a big red flag. There's two kinds of bear flags out there. There's the kind that confirms with follow through like we saw here, But there's also the kind that confirms with no follow through, which can mark a reversal. And we had that back here on MSOS, where bear flag confirms we broke the low only by 4 pennies, and that marked a longer term bottom. So now the next question is going to be, I like a 4-hour time frame for clarity. I don't use it often, but we're either going to confirm a 4-hour uptrend and negate a daily bear flag, or we're going to stay on the weaker side of things. And the next bit of information would be, if we do break 828, which is the most important short-term support, do we get follow through? Do we only drop 1% and then go straight into a bounce, or do we drop for multiple days? So, if we hold weekly EMA 12, there's nothing wrong with this chart whatsoever. And that's why, I was coming on saying, don't fear weekly consolidation. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And one thing we can compare it to, I'm on a rant right now, I'll stop in a moment, but
that's great.
Oh no.
It's the cannabis, no, not the cannabis, the crypto miners. So look at MARA and what these names did. Massive run up, massive sell off, and then a recovery. Like, you have to see this kind of pullback. And so, you look at Coinbase, they had earnings help out, but these pullbacks are part of the game. They're part of supply and demand, just balancing out. And so, cannabis is looking at crypto and saying, well, I hope our weekly charts look like that. And it's a possibility. If we were going to look like coin, in my opinion, we would need a headline to get that kind of follow through. But best case for the bulls from here would be break the 926 high of yesterday, more convincingly bounce off this weekly EMA 12 and try and set it up. And so, I did some buying while on vacation these 2 days here. And then I trimmed some yesterday, trying to protect against the possibility if it were a bear flag. And now my mindset is, I either stop out low risk, or that's the weekly higher low, and we head back to the mid to upper $9 range.
So you're looking at 828, or you're looking at 828 for like resistance or support here.
That's now the key level.
Yeah, if we hit 828, that's another 8% down on MSOS. People are going to start to freak out if we tap those price levels.
Yeah, it's every time we see a pivot, that's then a key level. And so the pivot was, we dropped every single day, lower high every day. I talked a bit about candlestick shapes in some of my content. You look at these candle shapes. The high of the day is the open, the low of the day is the close. That indicates full bear control, hourly downtrend control. And then you start to see it shift a little bit. That lower wick on Wednesday was the precursor to a pretty decent bounce there. So just got to pay attention to, the shorter term trends. But the next big question into next week is, can 828 mark the weekly higher low? If yes, bulls are just fine. If no, then I then start to look for the possibility that we just tighten up on the weekly time frame for a good bit of February, March, until we get some kind of headline.
Yeah. Well said. One stock that's actually in charts been holding up relatively strong is GTI. That's next up.
Yeah. So this one, the shift that we saw take place here was Trulieve gets the headline for, increased probability that we're going to get a Florida recreational vote. And we see capital significantly shift to Trulieve. Yeah. Then we see the top hit, and we came on that day saying that gap up open is mighty suspicious from these market makers. We then dropped 30% plus, and now we're seeing a shift out again. And this is a daily bear flag. This is a very weak bounce at this point. And we can definitely see another leg down here, but we're seeing the shift back again. So Trulieve tops, and this goes back to crypto. Bitcoin runs up, it then starts to pull back. As Bitcoin pulls back, there's rotation into Ethereum and all that. And so we're seeing this among the major players. And if we look at GTBIF divided by TCNNF, we could see that there's been a massive shift. We had Trulieve leading massively, and now we've got over the last week and a half, Green Thumbs back to leading massively. Yeah. And so it's just rotation of capital. And bigger picture, the Green Thumb weekly chart, again, same thing, right off EMA 12, no red flags. This is a bull flag at this point. So the simple statement here is, if 1220, that low, if that holds, this is a weekly bull flag looking for continuation.
Yeah. All right, let's now move away from cannabis and Bitcoin. It's been up, I think, almost 25% in the last 30-day trends. But yeah, good year to start the year for crypto investors, needless to say.
Yeah, this is a very impressive move. I was looking for, and this is where, I look for most likely scenarios, and I would have anticipated a weekly lower high and tightening range here, and I was wrong, which is good that I don't short crypto, but we've got just a complete bull control move. This is a daily stair-step pattern, which means just a higher low every single day, 11 days in a row now. Today would be the 12th day if we can pull it off again. That's just as significant bull control as you can get. And so, you know, if you're looking for an entry from here, you're looking for first hourly oversold conditions, what we call a back burner. We'll look for, you know, that to be a bounce. Last time we got close to hourly oversold, we didn't quite get there. That was the best buying opportunity for another 10% move up. So that's the, you know, if you're sitting here and you got FOMO and you want a position, it's patiently waiting for hourly oversold to scout that potential daily high or low. But yeah, a lot of confidence in crypto right now. Everybody's talking about all-time highs. Probability is definitely increased that those are in play now. But look at this weekly guide. Yet again, weekly EMA 12, just like the cannabis bulls, you know, MSOS, big move up, pulls back, holds weekly EMA 12. If that can shape up, then again, you look at this chart and say, well, yeah, that was a big 20% plus pullback, 25% on Bitcoin, but we held a key level. It was healthy and we saw continuation. So that's really what, again, you know, cannabis sector is looking towards crypto saying, I hope we do what they just did.
Yeah. What's
are
the
there any metrics? Are there any metrics that you're seeing change within Bitcoin now that the ETFs have these inflows and these outflows going on during the week, and then they kind of mute on the weekend?
The weekend's been slow consistently recently, so that's not surprising. But I would say the biggest, the short-term pattern that we're noticing is that when the stock market has been opening on this run up, that, you know, 9:30 a.m. gets a little surge, and, you know, potentially that's the inflow from the previous day being bought up, or, you know, I don't know what exactly is going on, but it's just an observation. And so, yeah, definitely helping things bigger picture here in terms of just complete bull control. But we're due for daily consolidation inevitably, and we'll look for that daily high or low. Again, same thing, just hold daily EMA 12. You don't got anything to worry about if that can remain support.
What's Bitcoin's all-time high again?
69,000.
69. Good year to start the year, that's for sure. Let's now switch to psychedelics. We had some movement earlier this week. Some interesting news last week pertaining to Lykos Therapeutics and their NDA approval from the FDA submissions. So first chart you want to look at, leader in the space, Compass Pathways.
Yeah, this is telling me that volatility is coming here next week. And I can say that because the volume's dropping off, but just look at how tight we are. You know, we've had a lot of volatility over the last couple of months on this move up. And we can say this is the tightest that we've been in the last couple of months. And that tells us volume and volatility are coming to break this range. And the last time I said that was Bitcoin right here. This was the tightest Bitcoin had been on the daily time frame in months. And so I said volume and volatility is coming, and certainly far exceeded bull expectations. So same thing here. And again, you keep hearing me talk about EMA 12. So here it is again. And this is, you know, CMPS back testing and holding weekly EMA 12, getting that continuation. And now the question is, can we stay strong? And so 988, most important support. I'm watching 1083. And then the key level from there would be 1142, just a couple little levels. But at this point, this consolidation, there are no red flags. And what you're seeing is previous resistance trying to act as support. We had 1012, 1018 as a key level, and now that was resistance. And now we're back testing it and trying to hold it as support. Just another example. Every time I talk about stuff, I just have another chart popping in my head. Oh, here's a good example. Coin on the weekly time frame had this double top, 116, 114, key resistance. We break it and break out. We back test and hold it into continuation. So CMPS bulls are hoping the exact same thing happens. Double top, break it, back test and hold it. So need this range to break bull for continued confidence, but watch for that break sometime within the next, I'd say 3 days.
Keep it on psychedelics, MindMed.
Yeah, this is a good looking one. This is, you know, we're coming up to a key level, 501. Here's another one where you look at that coin chart, double top with nothing nearby after it, and we broke out. Same deal here. We got 501 and $5. And this is attempting to be a cup and handle type of pattern where we have a very clear, it's a triple top, very clear resistance. This is a bull flag. The inside bar from yesterday just broke bull today. The simple statement is if this low, this daily higher low of 435 holds, we're going to break 501 bullish and get another leg up. And the next resistance after 501, I'm looking at a gap fill at 552. I'm then looking up at 623. And there's just open air up here. And it was the same thing I was saying on Coinbase. If you clear 116, there's open air. It's a lot easier for bulls to move through. So MNMD definitely is back up on the top watch list into next week for the possibility. And same thing, if you break 501, that's great. You want to push up, but you got to back test and hold it as well.
It's been good. Any comments below? Anybody wants to see any charts? I think there was actually one earlier that somebody wanted to see real quick. The Terracin chart, if I'm correct. I don't know if that was.
It's been getting walloped. And again, the rebalancing stuff going on definitely has had an impact. But this one has, it's really been struggling, just call it like it is in terms of relative strength. It's almost like the bulls used up their momentum before the sector got any momentum. They used up their relative strength with the uplisting in Canada and things like that. And it's fallen off since then. You look at TCNNF divided by MSOS.
Yeah.
And this is the weakest it's been since the start of 2023. So we're now at 52-week lows in terms of relative weakness. And so we can't, disregard that. Regardless of whatever you think about the fundamentals, clearly it is not benefiting like the rest of the sector from this move up the last couple of months.
As far as MSOS goes, are you looking at the RSI or the momentum? I think it's at about 50 right now on MSOS.
Yeah, I often look at it. The 4-hour RSI being oversold helped me look to play some of this bounce as well. As far as where it stands on the daily, it doesn't really give me a whole lot of information at this point. I look when we're at extremes, essentially, is when the RSI is helpful to me. So the hourly RSI, when it gets overbought, we didn't quite get there, but just like we use it for bounces when we're in an uptrend and we're looking for entries on longer term higher lows, we play bounces with the RSI. Bears do the same thing, where if we're in a pullback, RSI getting overbought often marks a lower high on the longer term time frame. And so you can use it in both directions that way. But as far as the daily RSI right now, no information for me.
Jake writes a tie, life sciences. I think that was another chart we wanted to bring up. And then we'll let you run. I know you got things to do, but
which one? Say the name.
Atai, ATAI.
Oh, ATAI or high tide.
ATAI.
Oh, okay. Psychedelics. Yeah. Same deal. Yeah. Volatility is coming here. What my brain instantly sees here is an equilibrium, and I smooth it out a little bit, but I'm just viewing it as, here. So most important level to me, 172 support. Most important resistance is 193. If neither of those levels are breaking, nothing is changing, and we're just continuing to tighten up. This is one where, again, we can trade within this range another 3+ days or so. But knowing what CMPS looks like and knowing what ATAI looks like, this tells me that the psychedelic space is going to see volatility here into the end of February. And so, weekly consolidation here has been sideways. No red flags in that regard. Bulls are hoping this is an inverse head and shoulders type of pattern.
Yeah.
We establish a little higher low, and then, if we can break 223 and 239, that's where we enter a lack of resistance again, similar to what we're talking about on MNMD. So definitely no red flags in psychedelics right now. What I'm seeing is healthy sideways consolidation, and we'll see if that can turn into another leg up.
Duly noted. Listen, appreciate you checking in. And I know you're actually going to be traveling next week, but look forward to catching up with you the following week. But this is always helpful. And again, everybody, leave some comments below, any questions. If there's anything that you want us to look at and why, we'll reach back out to Dan and get some feedback for you. But in the meantime, let's keep in touch. We'll see you in not next week, but the week after. Safe travels, and appreciate you checking in.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on. I'm going to do a more in-depth technical analysis video this evening. So come on over to our YouTube channel if you're interested in more.
Yeah. Is there any, as far as workshops, stuff like that, where they can sign up as well for you?
Chartguys.com has all our info. We got the courses and the community and all that. So come on by. Lots of free content too, free course, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Dan. I appreciate the time.
See you next time.
All right. Take care. Such a smart guy, isn't he? That's interesting about resistance 828 MSOs. So that'd be something to watch closely.
Support.
Sorry.
I love Dan's perspective. I mean, he's a great teacher. It's just another one of those perspectives you can take in when looking at everything. And it's interesting to me because he's using technical analysis. You'll see a lot of charts on Twitter using TA to predict what they think is going to happen with certainty. And Dan's always emphasizing, keep all scenarios in mind, assign probabilities to those scenarios, and then be ready once one of those scenarios plays out. And so I think that's a really healthy, if you're a technical day trader, that's a very healthy perspective to take. And it's just, it's always appreciated. So much of this is buyer psychology, but there's also a lot of people who follow the moving averages and trend lines too.
Yeah, I mean, if MSOS hits 828, I'll be logging off Twitter because people will start melting down again.
Yeah,
So,
I'm sure.
I'm hoping we don't hit that support point.
I like this Henry Lopez guy, man. I love the cheerleading, helping us get the likes going. Henry, you gotta let's reach out to you after the show. Got to get you some swag, brother.
We didn't get the background again. We got the Roku in the
oh shoot,
in the background with the TDR logo.
Well, hold on. I'll bring
they owe
that
us
up.
a lot of money for that sponsorship that we.
It's free advertising for Roku.
Yeah.
Do they? Okay, well, hold on. Let me bring this up. Actually, no, I'll get to it later afterwards.
Yeah.
All right. It's now time for segment number 3. We're at 46 minutes. We're gonna have to make this a quick one, Guap. But now
I am gonna make it quick.
It is Fridays. Cue up that music, Mitch. It's Mic Drops with Guap. Happy Friday, everybody. Now, without further ado, let's welcome in Guap, presented by the Cannabis. Far away, man. You put on the shades for this one?
Yeah, if he ran that intro video, I'd have a chance.
No video. Put it on.
Okay, all right. Greetings, Earthlings.
How's that? Is that better? First backdrop?
This is a live show, guys. Can you tell?
Yeah,
It
I
is
don't know what's
live.
going on right now.
I have no idea what's going on, but it's good music.
Greetings, Earthlings. Dub reggae always makes me feel all right.
I love it.
So, fun, FUD, front page. Little
Okay.
fun. First off, a shout out to Buldux. That's BOLDUX on Twitter. He or she is doing a fantastic job tracking almost every single ETF in the cannabis space, the ETF inflows, the outflows, what percentage, when Dan buys a bunch of MSOS, which stocks is he buying percentage wise. I find it extremely helpful. Matches up with my own sort of tracking in the space. And it's just, I'm all about developing resources for new and existing investors. And he or she is a great follow.
Okay.
So it's great in contrast to Dan's technical charts to put this one on the screen. This is my own Autist creation. I'm using Winston, which is Jungle Java's bully pup, as basically he controls all price action in MSOS. This is a joke. But he was born right before the HHS recommendation leak late August. He's super cute. If you can't believe in 3-letter government agencies, believe in Winston.
All right.
Yeah. So, and also he got a new sweater on the Green Day yesterday. I haven't had a chance to look at MSOS price action today, but I'm sure the sweater has a lot to do with it.
Good to know. That's the fun. What's the FUD?
Oh, so much to choose from this week. Sam's always putting out an awesome collection of FUD, but we'll talk about that next week. For me, this is my favorite meme of the week.
That is a great one.
Helps explain things. There was just a lot of finger pointing. When price goes down, the finger pointing begins. When price goes up, the high-fiving begins. It's hilarious.
I love Steve's original LinkedIn post, and his excuse for it is like, I put a typo error on, and by the time I came back to change it 20 minutes later, it had gone viral. And I don't know what he was going to
plausible deniability, I believe is the legal term there, coming from a lawyer. We could speculate about that some other time. I think he was going off good intel. He just got caught up in a shitstorm of people who microanalyze every word like us. And he probably regretted it almost instantly. But it's sort of like it's always multi-factors, guys. It's everything all at once, all the time. So anytime someone tells me the reason the price went up today was X. I'm like, yeah, but also Y and Z, and the same when the price goes down. So it's a crossfire of ETFs. It's expectations not met. I don't know how much of it was really Shardy B, but it's just hilarious to me.
All right. So that wraps up the fun, the FUD, and the last but not least,
front page. Yeah, I mean, really. Yeah, I want to talk about this. I'm sort of going off my own quote here, but no one has ever said that the government, quote, the government has a history of doing what's best for the cannabis industry. I think we need to keep in mind, if we zoom out here, that not conspiracy theories or stuff like that, but everyone has a very, at least on Twitter with the limited characters, a very binary way of looking at everything. I like Dan's sort of multi-scenario assigned probabilities way of thinking. And Schedule 3 coming out, and everyone wants to predict how many percentage points will that make MSOS go up or down, or if it happens or it doesn't, switch this A or B. Schedule 3 plus the AG memo has a variety of sub-scenarios, timelines, and impacts, and we don't really know all of them yet. We don't know what the AG memo is going to say. So my overall point is it's not all priced in. It's not, binary. Oh, it's buy the news, sell the news. No, let the news happen. Let some scenarios play out. If all this uncertainty right now to me says that it's not all priced in, because we don't know what it is. And so if it ends up unlocking flows or saying anything about safe harbor or anything like that, with the AG memo, that can be a buy the news event. I know everyone says sell it every time, but let's see what it is.
In the midst of all this uncertainty and chaos, it's great that we're being able to talk about cannabis again. I think that's the most important thing, and it's a show me time now. Like, it's just, as you've alluded to a number of times, Anthony. But I think the most important thing right now for me is the fact that we're able to have these conversations. And as much as it is challenging about uncertainty and waiting, because we keep waiting, I do believe that we are headed in the right direction here in 2024.
It's only challenging if you're following it every day. And I mean, I enjoy it, right?
Yeah, but Guap, of course,
it's exciting
every day.
It's only challenging. It's only challenging if you're overexposed from a monetary perspective.
Yeah,
because that's where it starts to get nail biting, and that's where you start to not be able to stomach the volatility.
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, that's what is projecting a lot of the anger, vitriol that you're seeing on Twitter. Like, I really do think that it is a lot of people that are just overexposed or bag holding. And I mean, psychologically, you got to be a pretty thick-skinned human being and know exactly what you're doing to be able to stomach that. And it shows across this sector.
Mungie Boy agrees with you. I think that is the main issue, Anthony.
I've never been more excited. I mean, can you?
No.
Look, I mean, we went a couple years where if safe banking is going to happen was the top story for a while. I'm happy to be on the show with you guys when all these huge milestones are coming out, and I'm really hoping for that dance party because I think everyone watching deserves it. And hopefully, a little sunlight and some hugs, and everyone can chill as their stocks rip. That's really what I'm rooting for everybody.
On that note, let's dance into the weekend. Where's the shades, my friend?
I got a variety right here.
Cue up that music, Mitch. Coming up, our friends over at Advisor Shares, Noah, Dan, and Mackenzie, the Alpha Nooner. That's coming up next.
Funky Dan.
5 minutes. So give them some love if that podcast is coming up in 5 minutes over on their YouTube channel. Don't forget, subscribe to the TDR newsletter, baked-in newsletter, and get access to all the latest equity research reports. You can do that by logging on to thedalesreport.com. We very much appreciate it. And don't forget, we want to make this community grow and go viral. So click on that like button, click on that bell for all notifications, because we got some really good interviews and videos coming up this weekend, including an in-depth look at the Pennsylvania market that me, Anthony Varell, and Anthony Cogniglio. This is a company that has been involved in over $100 million of lease-back transactions This man knows the Pennsylvania market. So we'll be pushing that out on either Sunday night. Monday, we're going to actually have a pre-recorded podcast, so no live stream Monday. It's a holiday both in Canada and the US, but we got some good content coming up. In the meantime, enjoy your long weekend. Gents, take it away.
Stay up, everybody.
Yep. Have a good weekend.
This has been the TDR Traded Black Podcast.
Beautifully.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. And if you want to learn more about the emerging industries that we cover, then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, the questions you want asked, and the information that you want to learn. We want to hear from you. As usual, click on that bell for all notifications to get the latest information. Share this video with your network, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we